This is Chapter 3, Level 2 of the text. And in this level, what we're going to do is we're going to experiment more with charting in terms of the flexibility of it and the depiction of information. You remember from Level 1 that we had these sports categories, and we produced this Consumer Reports graphic at one point with the switched rows and columns. We also produced this chart here that showed the pie chart pulled out. Coloring is a little different this time. And then we're going to worry about depicting all the other subcategories that the company has sold within the periods 16 to 14, and as a pie chart. We'll do that in a little bit. First of all, back at this first one here, I'm going to take this chart here and I'm going to make 3 copies of it. I'm going to right click and copy, and I'm going to make 3 copies on the right hand side here. So just bear with me as I do that. Right click and paste that, and then I'll go further down, and let's do another one right here and paste that. Okay, I'm going to shrink this down a bit so we can see all 3. Something like that. There we go. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll move this one over to the far right as we've shrunk it down. Something like that. Okay. Now the reason I created 3 of these things is that I want to show you things called stacked areas. If I touch this graph here, this plot, I'm going to go to Design, and I'm going to make this a stacked area chart. So chart type, I'm going to go to Area, and then the further one along here is called Stacked Area. I click it, and I click OK. So that's the same data as a stacked area, and I'll talk about what that is in a second. This one here is going to be stacked column. So I go to change chart type. Stacked column, I think, is this one. There we are. Click OK. And then this one here is going to be stacked line. So change chart. I'm going to go to line, stacked line. There we are. Click OK. So what does stacked mean? Basically, it's saying that this little yellow line down here, that yellow area, starts at 20 grand, all right, which is basically the equipment in 2012, right? 2012, all right. There's 20,000 right there, all right, 20,000, and it gradually goes down to 13,000 on the far right. And then, because it's stacked, the blue one, which is 2013, is sitting on top of it. All right, it shows you that as that little pop-up. And again, green is 2014, another blue is 15, then that one is 16. And then the top number represents the overall sales for the entire year for all the various, for the equipment, right? Okay, so that is an add-on. It adds on, it doesn't compare it, it actually adds it on to come up with a bigger number across the top, at the top. Okay, so it shows you that in 2012 here, equipment, we've sold about $83 million worth of equipment over the 5 years, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is showing it in a bar chart. Really, it's just a slicing of this, and then this one's showing it as a line. There's other ways of showing data. If I click on here, I can change this to a 100% format. So I go to Design here, chart type. I can go and change this to the 100% version. Click that. Let me do these, and then I'll come back and talk about it a little bit. There's the 100% version, and the last one here is going to be the 100% version again. All right, there it is there. Click OK. All right, now what does the 100% mean? Well, rather than having dollar numbers on the left-hand side, it has percentages. So of the 100% in sales of equipment, how is it split up between the years 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 across there? Same thing with the bar, and same thing with the line. There's 100% is a straight line across the top for all the equipment over a 5-year period. And of interest, if I touch this one here and I switch the columns and rows, it changes its nature. This time the years are across here, showing the equipment as a 100%. This is 100% of all the sales across here. showing the relative comparison between the apparel, footwear, and the equipment. All right, so 100%ers give you relative comparisons, which are sometimes quite helpful. Now, let's move on to the last chart here, or the last depiction of data. And what I want to do is I want to depict the 2016 sales. All right, there's all the sales, $22 million worth of sales. Here they are, consumer purchases. In 2016, let me just stretch this column. There's the equipment. No, it's not 22 million. I thought it was. Let me just hold on a second. Yeah, so these are all 40 millions. So consumer equipment purchase sales. So we're just talking about equipment here. In 2016, they've got 13 million, but here it's showing 22 million. No, don't worry about it. Okay, anyway, I don't know why it's inconsistent like that. But basically what I want to do is I want to show the comparison for archery and all the way down to the wheel sports, and show that as a pie chart to give the reader some information about the relative comparisons between the three, between all the categories. All right, so I've highlighted all this data. I'm going to click Insert. I'm going to click on a pie chart. I'm going to recommend the charts here. All chart. I'm going to find the pie chart. Here it is there, and I click OK. All right, so there's the pie chart for all this data. And we would all agree that that's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Very informative, very easy to use. Not. All right, that's terrible. Look at that. I mean, how would you depict between the blue and the blue, the green and the kind of the green here? It's just a total mess in terms of depiction of information. And so what we want to do is try and improve this so that it's readable by the user. The first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to just move this over to the right, and then I'm going to resort the data here so that the big numbers are at the top, the big categories such as exercise and golf are at the top, and the small numbers are at the bottom. Before I do that, I want to show you how to sort a bunch of tables. Now, one of the things you have to be careful about is what we call data integrity. We have to make sure the data is always right. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of cells like this to show you that they're all linked, they're all related, right? So this, well, let me make this a different color. Let's make this, say, a bluish color like that. So the blue here and the blue, they're all related. There's just different years for the golf sales. Same here with the exercise. And say I wanted to sort just and use the 2016 information. Well, in order to sort it, you still have to sort all the rest as well, even though you'll only be using this data, because otherwise you'll lose track of what's beside what. Let me show you what the bad way of doing it is. I'm going to do this. I want to highlight all this data and I want to sort it by the highest to the lowest. So I do this. I highlight the data, I go Data, I go Sort, uncheck this, sort by column B, because we know it's on B, from largest to smallest, clicking OK. Alright, so it does the job. Alright, there's the 4,000 and 3,000 are at the top of the list. However, the chart is a little bit better. It's still very unusable, but it has made the big ones first, second biggest one, third biggest one, fourth biggest one, etc. So you can start to see what may be the biggest level. We're not quite sure because we can't see that blue, that exercise, very tiny little color. But look what's happened to the data here. We're starting to lose track of what's what. Because I colored this, we can see that this 4,000 is sitting here, and if we had only sorted that first row the way we did here, then the data all becomes corrupted. By leaving it in this manner, it tells me that exercise is 4.9 million in 2016 and 372 million in 2015, right? So it's completely wrong data. I'm going to undo this. The best way to do this, even though you're still interested in just 2016, and I shouldn't say best, the correct way of doing it is to highlight all the data, click on Sort. We're going to sort by column B again, largest to smallest, and click OK. All right, the colors now match everything, so they're followed along properly, and now we have the data at the top sorted. Again, we're not using this data here, but you still have to sort it properly so that the data is not corrupted. Now over here, this chart is absolutely abysmal, isn't it? It's terrible. So a better way to do this is to use a pie of a pie. So I'm going to go to Design, I'm going to go to Chart Type, and I'm going to find something called Pie of Pie, which is this one right here. And what the Pie of Pie does is it takes all the small numbers and then makes its own pie. So it's like the Earth and the Moon. So what we've done here is we've taken all the numbers at the bottom of the list. Right, so I'll just scroll down here. All these numbers down here are in that green slice, and then those numbers now are depicted as its own little pie of a pie. So what I want to do is I want to actually make this even easier to use. I don't want this legend. This legend's awful because you can't see the colors and therefore can't use them properly. So I'm highlighting it and pressing delete. So the next thing I want to do now is I want to label this stuff. I'm going to touch anywhere on any of the charts, right click, and I want to do Format Data Series. And it comes back with a dialog box that's specific just to the pie of a pie. And I want to reduce the gap width between them. So I pull this in like that, and you'll notice how it tightens up between them. You can increase the size of the actual moon or the second plot. So if I go like this, it becomes bigger, right? If we go like this, it becomes smaller. All right, so I think it's more appropriate to be smaller, significantly smaller than the main one it comes from. The next thing I want to do is I want to use data labels. So I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to go to the plus. I want data labels. Go to the right. And I want to do more options. And this brings up the dialog box that has the category names that we were interested in using before. Don't want all these numbers. Don't want the values. I want the category names. So I'm clicking on category name, undoing the value, taking away the leader lines. All right. Now let's add leader lines. Okay, so let me just show you what leader lines are. You see how ski cross country has a line coming down it? That's called a leader line. Okay, archery is pointing at that little slice there. Snowboard is pointing. That's called a leader line. Okay, so this is a lot better and more informative way of describing the relative sales for all the equipment uses. All right, exercise is the biggest, then it goes all the way around to the smallest slice on the big circle, and then the remaining ones go to the smaller circle. Now you can determine, I've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can have 8 slices in the small moon, we call it, or we can have a change to that. I'm highlighting this. You'll notice that it has 8 slices. I'm going to increase that to 10 slices, and everything's adjusted automatically, maybe even 12 slices, something like that. All right. All right, so that's the pie of a pie. So what I'd like you to do to practice is actually do the same thing again, but don't do it for 2016. Do it for 2015. All right, that'll give you some practice. That would be a good idea to do. Okay. All right, let's move on. There's also these things called pie to donuts. I'm going to delete this. Okay. I'm going to go back to consumer purchases. Get all rid of these things because I want to create donuts for you. So I'm just deleting that. I'll keep this here for reference. But if I highlight all this data here, I can insert a kind of a pie. It's this one down here, but it's called a donut. So I'm going to click on that. There's a donut. I'm going to stretch it out a bit so we can see it. Okay, and we look at these donuts. Now I personally don't find these very interesting or very useful. I'm going to right click here just to shrink the size of the donut hole. So I touched it, right click format data, decrease the size of the hole. All right, and the idea here is that each circle represents a category. All right, so one of the equipment, footwear, and apparel. And it's not immediately obvious which one is which. If I hover over it, this is apparel. Hover this one, this is footwear, and this one is actually equipment. All right, but because it's not clearly labeled in that manner, I'm not too keen about these things. I just wanted to highlight that they're actually available to you. Each color represents a year in terms of sales, and I presume that it would give you some kind of comparator between the three. Like if you look at this one here, which is 2009, all right, that the this one down here is actually kind of winning the war. It's 18971, and this one here is 11127. Again, I don't find much merit in these, so I'm going to delete it. Okay, don't like it. All right, let's move on. I'm going to close this down, and we're going to move on to doing some financial data. So I'm going to close this file and come back with the financial data from our chapter 3. All right, so I'm closing. I'm going to pause for a second and come back. Okay, so I'm going to go to financial data, TZ, the zone, financial data, L1 start. I'm going to do that, double click on that. Let's wait for that to come up. And we see here the zone, which is the company that we're talking about here, the stock data. And you'll see we have a 1 year of data. So it goes from May, January, April down to the end of April. All right. It doesn't quite reach the end of April because it's probably a weekend when it ends. Okay. And then if I go back up to the top again, you'll see that it's got the volume of sales of stocks in that particular day, the opening price, the high price of the day, the low price of the day, and the closing price of the day. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this particular worksheet tab 4 times. And I'm going to do different types of charts depending on what I'm trying to depict. So let's do that. So we're going to start off by copying the chart. So I'm going to do this like this. I'm going to do one. I'm going to close down the video and come back and have them all done. All right. So I'm copying this video, copying this chart. Create a copy. I'm going to move it to the end. Click OK. This one here is going to be called HLC for the high price, the low price, and the closing price of the stock. I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to move it to the end, create a copy, click OK, and then this copy is going to be called the opening price, the high price, the low price, and the close. And I'm going to do that a few more times. So I'm going to close the video, I'll stop the video and come back with it. Alright, so I've created a couple more here. I'm just going to do the last one here. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to call this combo at the end. Alright, so I'm going to do combo as the name of it. Combo. Alright, we'll come back, we'll get to that later. Alright, so we're going to go back to the HLC. So I want to do just April here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all the rows that I do not need all the way down to April. And then I'm going to delete the rows. Alright, a lot of people are confused about deleting rows. It's very important, and I think I've said this quite a few times, you must touch the actual column row numbers, not the white parts here. Don't do this stuff, because you can't delete the rows that way properly. You can, but it's not that easy. You can actually touch where I'm pointing right here, which is on the border here, selects the entire row all the way in, and then select all the way up again to the top. So let me just do that. Then, once I've done that, I right click and I click delete. And there it comes back. All right. Now I want the high, low, and close, so I don't need the volume and open. So I'm going to click B and C, right click and delete. Okay. So I've got the date, the high, low, and close, which is going to depict this graph right here, which I'll do in a second. The open, high, low, close. So I want this one, this one, this one, and this one. Open. OHLC. I do not want volume, so I'm going to tick on the B here, right click and delete, and I'm going to get rid of all the dates except for the April. So pull it all the way down like this till the end of March, and then I right click and delete. Okay, and then the last one, we've got volume high low close. No, not the last one, volume high low close. So I don't want the open one this time, so I touch it and delete, and then I select all the way down from May all the way down to April. Okay, let me go like this, right click and delete. Okay, and then the combo is going to be everything. So what do we do with these things? Well, if I go high low close and I select all the data here like this, and I click on insert, recommended chart, this time go all charts, and we want to find the one that says stock. Then you'll notice that the stock charts, the canned stock charts, the first one is high low close, the second one is open high low close, the third one is volume high low close, and the last one here is everything, volume open high low close. Alright, we're going to be using all four. So I'm going to click on this one. But remember that in order for this to work, you have to have set up the data properly over here. You cannot possibly get the same chart properly done if you have it if you don't have the data set up properly. So that's what we've done by deleting columns, and so now I want to use it, so I'm going to click OK, and there it is. There's my high low close chart all ready to be used. Okay, next thing, I'm going to go to open high low close. I highlight all the data. I've already got rid of the columns that wasn't appropriate. Click insert, click on recommended charts, all charts, stock. Next one down the list, open high low close, click OK, and there we have a chart now that shows me the opening price, the high price, the low price, and the closing price for each of the dates. Okay, and let's do the next one. Let's go volume high low close. Again, we've done the same thing. We got rid of open this time. Highlight it, insert, recommended charts, all charts, stock. Next one on the list, volume high low close. Click OK. And this time you'll see two actual y-axes. The one on the left, the y-axis on the left, this one here is the primary axis, they call it, and this is the secondary axis. This one here on the left shows the volume, all right, the volume of sales. So the blue lines are the volume, all right, the number of sales sold in a particular day, and then the other side shows the stock price. So the little thin lines refer to the price on the right, and the blue lines refer to the left-hand column here. All right, let's do the last one, which is combo. And this time we're going to highlight everything. So I'm going to highlight the whole enchilada all the way down for the entire year, all categories, all columns. I click insert, I go recommended charts, and then all charts, and then stock, and then the last one. Okay, and we click OK, and up comes a stock chart that has a whole bunch of stuff on it. Okay, there it is there. And so it shows the volume for the entire year, up and down, spiky stuff. It shows the trend of the stock prices. And what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to actually add a thing called a trend line. A trend line is something that draws more of a straight line to show, to kind of smooth out all the ups and downs. So to do that, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this onto its own page, its own chart, its own tab down here. So I've touched it. I'm going to click design. I'm going to move the chart onto its own sheet. So I'm going to type this as combo chart, like that. It's a new sheet. It's like a new little tabby thing. Click OK. Now it's on its own sheet by itself, which is what I wanted. And now I'm going to do a trend line. So how does that work? Touch the actual data that you want trended. Right click. Add a trend line. Okay. It now draws a trend line. It's kind of hard to see. See how it's kind of fainty there? There's your line. That's a straight line showing the trend line. But what I want to do is I want to do a 30-day moving average on that too. 30-day moving average shows you the swings, all right, the average that's happened on the last 30 days. So I'm going to touch the actual trend line. I'm going to go to moving average and change it to 30 actual days for the 30-day moving average. You'll see that being clicked across at the top there, or the bottom right here. Okay. And you will see that we've got a wavy line here going on. See that? See the wavy line? That wavy line shows the 30-day moving average, which is something that starts to show how the stock is moving, but it's not as abrupt as the actual stock markets, stock changes themselves. Okay, so that just showed you trend lines. I've shown you some combo charts. The flexibility of Excel with charting is just amazing. Onward and upwards to level 3. That's it for now.